A world engulfed. The significance of World War II. World War II, the deadliest conflict in human history, continues to shape our world today. From 1939 to 1945, over 30 countries and millions of soldiers and civilians were engaged in a global struggle that redefined the geopolitical landscape. The war left an indelible mark on humanity, resulting in an estimated 40 to 85 million fatalities, and forever changing our understanding of warfare, international relations, and the very nature of human conflict. The echoes of World War II are still felt today in the institutions it helped create, the alliances it forged, and the technologies it spawned. Understanding its causes, its key events, and its enduring consequences is crucial for comprehending the complexities of the modern world. The war was a clash of ideologies, a battle between democracy and fascism, freedom and oppression. It tested the resilience of the human spirit and showcased both unimaginable cruelty and extraordinary acts of courage and sacrifice. The world watched in horror as the horrors of the Holocaust unfolded, a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of unchecked hatred and intolerance. The Second World War serves as a stark reminder of the fragility of peace and the importance of diplomacy, cooperation, and understanding in a world grappling with new challenges and threats. Seeds of conflict, the rise of dictators. The roots of World War II can be traced back to the aftermath of World War I. The Treaty of Versailles, signed in 1919, imposed harsh penalties on Germany, including territorial losses, disarmament, and crippling reparations. This fueled resentment and economic instability in Germany, creating fertile ground for extremist ideologies to take root. In Germany, Adolf Hitler and his Nazi party capitalized on this discontent, promising to restore German pride and power. Hitler's ideology, a toxic mix of nationalism, militarism, and anti-Semitism, resonated with a population desperate for change and a return to greatness. Meanwhile, in Italy, Benito Mussolini had already risen to power, establishing a fascist dictatorship that glorified violence and national unity. Similarly, in Japan, military leaders gained increasing influence, driven by expansionist ambitions and a desire for imperial dominance in Asia. The world watched with growing apprehension as these dictators consolidated their power, their aggressive rhetoric and expansionist policies, setting the stage for another global conflict. The storm breaks, from Poland to Pearl Harbor. On September 1, 1939, the world watched in horror as Germany, under Hitler's command, invaded Poland. This act of aggression shattered the fragile peace that had held since World War I, marking the beginning of World War II. Britain and France, bound by treaties to defend Poland, declared war on Germany 2 days later. Germany's highly mobile and aggressive military tactics, known as Blitzkrieg, proved devastatingly effective in the early stages of the war. Poland fell quickly, followed by Denmark, Norway, the Netherlands, Belgium, and finally France. By the summer of 1940, Germany had conquered much of Western Europe, leaving Great Britain standing alone against the Nazi war machine. In a desperate struggle for survival, Britain endured months of relentless German air raids during the Battle of Britain. The resilience of the British people and the courage of their Royal Air Force pilots ultimately forced Hitler to abandon his plans for a land invasion of Britain. However, the war was far from over. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, Japan launched a surprise attack on Pearl Harbor, Hawaii on December 7, 1941. This devastating attack on the U.S. Pacific Fleet drew the United States into the war, transforming the conflict into a truly global struggle. Section 4. A World at War: Global Conflicts and Turning Points. World War II was a truly global conflict, with battles raging across Europe, Asia, Africa, and the Pacific. Millions of soldiers and civilians were caught in the crossfire as the Allied and Axis powers clashed on land, at sea, and in the air. In Europe, the war raged on, with Germany facing a two-front war against the Soviet Union in the east and the Allied forces in the west. The Battle of Stalingrad, a brutal and protracted siege that lasted for months, marked a turning point in the war. The Soviet victory at Stalingrad, at a tremendous human cost, halted the German advance in the east and ultimately turned the tide of the war in Europe. On June 6, 1944, Allied forces launched a massive amphibious assault on the beaches of Normandy, France, in what became known as D-Day. This daring operation, the largest seaborne invasion in history, marked the beginning of the liberation of Western Europe from Nazi control. In the Pacific, the United States engaged in a brutal island-hopping campaign against Japan, culminating in the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August 1945. The use of these devastating new weapons forced Japan's unconditional surrender, marking the end of World War II.